Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head on UATV and I am Oles Gardyuk. On July 23rd, the First Ukrainian Defense Hackathon has kicked off here in Kyiv. For the next 5 days, IT specialists from Ukraine's security and defense sector, together with NATO experts, will work to develop software products and improve the capabilities of Ukraine's command and communication system. So what is the aim of the event and what can be done to make Ukrainian software compatible with similar systems in NATO member states? To talk more about this, we are joined in the studio today by Oksana Horbach. She's the head of Transformation Department at the Center for Strategic Communications, StratCom Ukraine, and co-organizer of the Ukrainian Defense Hackathon. Hello and thank you for joining us today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So, first of all, hackathon is about creating a certain software that focuses on something specific. What is this hackathon about?
Well, primarily the aim of the hackathon is to improve interoperability of the agencies in defense and security sector of Ukraine. So basically what we are talking about is that we have a practical challenge of having all the agencies from defense and security sector of Ukraine in the forefront. So National Guard, Armed Forces of Ukraine, State Border Guard are all participating in the military actions, in the combat actions in the east of Ukraine. And that means that they have to be capable of interoperating with each other. So mean coordinating their actions, communicating with each other, exchange data and actually work together.
So what obstacles do they experience now in this coordination?
Well, there is basically a there is very basic communication right now, mostly a paper one or a secure one, which is secured through personal communication or telephone communication. While we can understand that there can be a soldier who sees something, makes a photograph, should be able to send it to by secure line to some central command, and the information out there should be visible only to those who must see that and be used by those who can use it. So what we are talking about is that the practical challenge is that State Border Guard or Armed Forces of Ukraine can see a tank and each of them reports back to their center, and then they report back to the command of the National Security Council, and they see not one tank but 3 tanks, because all of them have been separately reported by these separate agencies, which is ridiculous, but that is actually what's happening right now. So what we are talking about right now is that while we are in actually active combat actions, we need to be able to make sure that the operations we are leading are coordinated and cooperated with each of the agencies in defense and security sector. And the challenges which are currently we're facing with it, that there is no architectural solution to that. So basically the server there, the cables, the way how we actually accept the mobile data or computer data or any other type of data. So there is no actually working system, practical architecture that's would be capable of supporting that. And also the software solutions that would be transmitting data, receiving data, making it securely. And so what we expect of the Defense Hackathon participants is ideas. So we understand that those kind of challenges will not be solved by 50 young and very talented programmers and analysts.
And especially in 5 days.
In 5 days, yes.
Keeping in mind that we have ongoing war for 4 years already.
Exactly. But we hope that the ideas would be, actionable, and General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, who is organizer of this event, will analyze those ideas, and those which are practically actionable will be presented to the leadership of defense and security sector for their practical implementation in the future. And we hope that those ideas will make the start of some kind of legal changes, because the current law that regulates the communication is quite outdated. So we need to make it modern, that would be able to meet the challenges of cyber attacks and information warfare. So this is something that we very much hope for.
And you mentioned young participants. How many Ukrainian programmers do participate in this hackathon?
We have 45 participants that are actually competing with each other by solving the challenges of the hackathon, and they represent 10 agencies of defense and security sectors. So National Guard, the State Border Guard, Security Service, and many others are actually participants of the Defense Hackathon. And this is great because, networking and communication of these agencies is quite difficult. They operate separately. They do not communicate very often because they don't have to. So, but here in this hackathon, they can actually network and communicate with each other. And we really hope that this would, boost the ideas.
And how are the NATO experts being involved? Do they consult the participants, or do they actually maybe judge if it's the competition?
The hackathon, as a defense hackathon as idea, was first launched by NATO. Actually, and hackathons are not very new to the industry. They're in Ukraine. At least this year, there was 20 hackathons in very.
But this is the first one in the defense.
But this is the first one in defense. So the NATO started doing them back like 3 years ago, and Ukrainian team of Ukrainian defense programmers participated in all of them and took like the first or second prizes. So being the winners.
Yeah, especially last year.
Yeah, especially last year. So at some point it was only natural that we came up with the idea, let's do it, at the national level, let's do it for ourselves, let's do it in Ukraine. But NATO experts definitely, have a lot of more experience on doing this kind of things, and their expertise is very vast, especially on the technical side.
And their software is much more developed.
Absolutely, the software that they use for federated mission networking, that's something very, it's very unique. And they actually came here, NATO experts came here to support our Ukrainian participants, help them, provide their expertise, share experiences, and also they will have the lectures. They will actually read the lectures on federated mission networking that being used by NATO nations currently. So that's going to be really amazing.
What is it about? Could you give us some instances of this foreign experience that we aim to adopt here in Ukraine?
Well, actually, if you look at that, NATO nations have the same kind of challenge that we're having in Ukraine. NATO is aiming to do the operations that are coordinating between NATO countries, which each of them has their own armed forces, their systems, their processes, programs and stuff. So they have to integrate it into one command and communication center, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So
among the 29 member states.
Exactly. So
that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work, and we are having the same challenge, but on the national scale. Like
domestic
we have the agencies that need to communicate with each other. But definitely they are step forward in doing this with the NATO countries. So they call it federated mission networking concept that acquire certain processes and programming and software to make sure that the nations communicate with each other and are able to perform joint operations. That's actually what they're aiming for, like to do these joint operations.
How does it look like? Is it some kind of platform that everyone is connected to, or what is it about?
Well, that's both architectural and software and operational administrative platform. Because, at many levels, you need to have a program, a software and architecture, but on the other side, you need to have people processes, like who, communicates with whom when we are talking about joint operations. So federated mission networking, as NATO experts say, is very much on the beginning of their development. So they're not very happy how it's now. I mean, in a way that it's good than nothing, but they are saying we are actually thinking that Ukraine can come up with something very different and very unique and might be much more effective than what we're having in NATO. So, but basically, they have something working. It operates right now, and we definitely want to share this experience and listen more about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you reminded about Ukraine's participation and achievements in NATO hackathons, and I would like to remind that last year Ukraine took part in this hackathon in London, and there were 3 nominations, and the Ukrainian IT specialist won 2 of them, being awarded with golden medals, and they took silver in the 3rd nomination. So therefore the question was raised, should the NATO hackathon be held in Ukraine? What is the latest on that?
The latest on that is that NATO considers this option, but they are very much looking at the National Defense Hackathon as an example of the level of organization and the level of administrative cooperation when we are working on the defense hackathon.
So this is like a business card for us, basically. This is our CV in order to...
Yeah, so they're looking at the case. So they are very much looking at what is happening here and how it's being, dealt with. So they will, but they definitely consider this option of having NATO hackathon sometime in Ukraine. But we need to make sure that the National Defense Hackathon is brilliant, is very effective, and then I just can hope that we will welcome NATO in Ukraine at the Defense Hackathon sometime in the future.
Is there any feedback by now? I know that it has just kicked off, but...
Oh, we are definitely having very positive feedback so far. I must say that we made a very high-level event on National Defense Hackathon. It's definitely worth it. I mean, because it's the first defense hackathon and it's something that we've never done before, and the question of interoperability is very important for Ukrainian defense and security sector. So we had a very high-profile guests and key speakers at the opening ceremony with Deputy Prime Minister Ivana Klympush-Tsintsadze and other guests. So we definitely made it very high level. I think that other defense hackathons in NATO are more like working meetings or something. In Ukraine, it's much more high level, and I think expectation level is much more higher. Is much higher here in Ukraine than in other countries. So so far, I think they've been impressed by everything that's been happening so far.
So this is basically a giant and very prospect think tank that is actually going on.
It has the potential to become one. I mean, at the moment, it's the first time we will see on Friday what kind of ideas, what kind of ideas we have. But we definitely hope that it will become some kind of a think tank in the future. At least Deputy Prime Minister Ivana Klympush-Tsintsadze has hoped that we will be having National Defense Hackathon on the annual basis. And in this case, I think it would be very good. Yes, it would be.
Well, let's hope that the ideas will be very efficient. And
yes,
thank you so much.
Actually, this is going to be a surprise for all of us. We don't know. We just think that I mean, if Ukrainian programmers could do so well in NATO-type hackathons, they must do very well in National Defense Hackathon. So, but we will know on Friday. I definitely am looking forward to Friday to see what kind of ideas they're going to present.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for this conversation, and thanks for your contribution also.
Thank you.
That was Oksana Horbach, Head of Transformation Department at the Center for Strategic Communications, StratCom Ukraine, and co-organizer of the Ukrainian Defense Hackathon 2018. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more with UATV.